January 7th, 1943. New York does not sleep. Millions of windows, yellow light. Every light bulb in this city works on his principle. Every wire, every transmission line, every socket. 400 meters from here, in a room at the Hotel New Yorker, an old man lies, alone, in debt to the management. In a few hours, the maid will open the door. The light from the corridor will flood the room. Light. He conquered it. But in the end, it never belonged to him. His name was Nikola Tesla. He was born in 1856 in a remote village of the Austrian Empire to the family of an Orthodox priest. He had a photographic memory. He could perform complex calculations in his head in seconds. He memorized entire books after a single reading. His brain was an instrument the world sees once a century. He wanted one thing, not money, not fame. He wanted to change humanity. Energy, free, for everyone, forever. And that is precisely what destroyed him. On the desk in his room lay a folder of calculations. Tesla registered over 340 patents in 26 countries. Where are they? 1884, the port of New York. A 28-year-old Serb stepped off a steamship with 4 cents in his pocket. New York in the late 1880s smelled of kerosene and horse manure, gas lamps. Darkness is the norm, darkness is destiny. After sunset, the city ceased to exist. Thomas Edison was the king of this world. His direct current powered the first electrical grids of Manhattan. He was not just an inventor, he was a system. 400 employees at the Menlo Park lab. Patents, newspapers, investors, a brand. And into this system one day walked a young Serb with a letter of recommendation. The letter began, "I know 2 great men. You are one of them." The second was not named in the letter. Edison hired Tesla and almost immediately realized he had made a mistake. Not because Tesla was bad, but because Tesla was better. Understanding the inefficiency of Edison's direct current machines, Tesla proposed a radical improvement. In response, according to Tesla himself, Edison made an offer. $50,000 for a complete modernization of the dynamos, a sum equivalent to roughly $1 million today. Tesla worked 18 hours a day. He solved the problem. In a few months, he didn't just fix old mistakes. He created 24 new variations of machines, developed a new commutator and regulator, dramatically increasing their efficiency. When the work was successfully completed, Tesla reminded Edison about the payment. The response that followed came as a shock. Edison laughed and uttered a phrase that would forever remain in history. "Tesla, you just don't understand our American humor." For Tesla, who was an engineer to the core and took everything literally, this was an insult. Without a word, he took off his apron and walked out that very moment. Forever. This episode, one of the most striking in the history of science, perfectly illustrates not only the difference in the approaches of 2 geniuses, but also the schism in their human qualities. This story of a broken promise became the trigger that forever turned 2 engineers into implacable rivals. It was the point of no return. Tesla never worked for anyone else again. He founded his own company, but due to fraud by his partners, he was left penniless and forced to work for a year as a common ditch digger, earning $2 a day. It was during this period of hardship that he finally crystallized his main idea, the alternating current system. It had come to him earlier in Budapest 2 years before, during a walk in the park. He stopped, picked up a stick, and traced a diagram right on the ground. An alternating current motor, a diagram that would soon change the world forever and become his primary weapon in the war against his former boss. A revolution in physics drawn in the sand. The War of the Currents. Direct current versus alternating current. Thomas Edison versus George Westinghouse and Tesla. The impossibility of transmitting direct current over long distances versus hundreds of miles with minimal losses using alternating current. The War of the Currents was not just a technical dispute, but a fierce commercial battle that determined what our electrified world would look like. In 1888, when the young but already brilliant inventor Nikola Tesla was looking for a way to implement his revolutionary AC system, the millionaire industrialist George Westinghouse, having solidified his position in the railroad industry, turned his attention to other fields. By this time, Westinghouse was not just an inventor, but an experienced and visionary industrialist who knew how to turn an idea into a profitable business. He was the complete opposite of the conservative Edison. It was during this period that Tesla managed to raise funds and patent his polyphase alternating current system, presenting it in a lecture before the American Institute of Electrical Engineers in May 1888. Hearing of Tesla's work and understanding its colossal potential for long-distance energy transmission, Westinghouse, whose company was already betting on AC, realized he had found the missing link and immediately sought a meeting with the inventor. The meeting took place a month later in Tesla's laboratory on Fifth Avenue in New York. This visit was unlike typical business negotiations. Westinghouse, an energetic and forward-thinking man, was so impressed by the inventor's personality and ideas that he proposed a deal on the spot. The result of the meeting was a famous collaboration. Westinghouse offered an astronomical $1 million in cash for the patents, an incredibly generous offer considering Tesla was still an unknown inventor. Tesla, stunned by such trust, quickly agreed. The final contract was signed in record time. In essence, it was a partnership agreement, not a simple sale. Westinghouse purchased over 40 patents for the AC system. A key point was the royalty agreement of $2.50 per horsepower of capacity produced by motors built on the patents. This meant Tesla could earn money from every motor sold, promising him immense wealth. As part of the deal, Tesla was hired as a consultant and relocated to Westinghouse's labs in Pittsburgh. This partnership became central to the epical War of the Currents. Realizing that the technical advantage lay with his rival, Edison launched a true campaign aimed at proving the danger of alternating current. Edison did not argue scientifically. He gathered crowds and connected animals to AC power in front of journalists. Cows, horses, an elephant named Topsy. It was all caught on film. 1893, the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. 27 million visitors. That was a third of the population of the United States at the time. The entire fairgrounds were lit by the alternating current of Tesla and Westinghouse. Edison did not get the contract. The final and decisive battle was the contract to build the hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls. Westinghouse's company won the contract, and Tesla's powerful generators were put to work. The first major AC power plant in the world. Light came to the city of Buffalo, 25 miles, an incredible distance at the time, then further, then everywhere. By the early 20th century, it was clear that alternating current had won an unconditional victory. The outcome of this confrontation is our entire modern electrical system, from massive power stations to the outlet in every home. But why did Tesla voluntarily give up his royalties? Why? The paths of Tesla and Westinghouse diverged not because of enmity or betrayal, but due to a combination of financial circumstances and the differences in their characters and approaches to business. Contrary to the popular belief that Westinghouse simply turned away from Tesla, the reality is more complex. The industrialist himself was in a precarious position, having lost control of his own company, and simply could not help the inventor in the way he needed. Their professional paths began to separate almost immediately after the resounding success at the Chicago World's Fair and the Niagara Project. The reason was a brutal financial battle. J.P. Morgan, who had financed Edison and his direct current, began buying up stock and manipulating the market to bankrupt Westinghouse's company and seize its assets, including Tesla's invaluable AC patents, in order to destroy the competition. By 1897, Westinghouse's company was on the verge of collapse. The bankers controlling the company's rescue issued an ultimatum. Either he broke the onerous royalty contract with Tesla, or they would take the company. Upon learning of this, Nikola Tesla committed an act that cost him a future multi-million-dollar fortune. In 1895, Westinghouse came to Tesla and spoke plainly. The company was in danger. The company was on the brink of bankruptcy due to the enormous costs of the War of the Currents. The patent payments would destroy them. Tesla took the royalty contract. He tore it up, a contract from which he was receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. With his own hands. Voluntarily. $12 million. In today's terms, roughly 400 million. He gave it away for nothing. He explained it this way: I did not want his efforts to implement my invention to go to waste. It was far more important to me to relieve Westinghouse of his financial obligations than to continue receiving royalties. But the price turned out to be different. After the contract was torn up, their personal communication dwindled. Tesla, known for his pride and eccentricity, felt undervalued. The situation was worsened by his refusal to work together further, preferring independent research and solitude. When Tesla began his ambitious Wardenclyffe Tower project in 1901, his old friend was no longer the all-powerful magnate he had once been. A severe financial panic had struck the United States, ruining Westinghouse. He lost his controlling stake, was removed from the management of his own company, and then severe illness and nervous exhaustion forced him to retire completely from business. Westinghouse was not only a friend, but also a pragmatic businessman. The project of wireless energy transmission over vast distances seemed to him, an engineer to the core, dubious from a technical standpoint and absolutely unprofitable from a commercial one. The project, Global Wireless Energy, inspired by successful experiments, Tesla conceived something truly grandiose: the World Wireless System. His idea went far beyond simple radio communication. According to Tesla's plan, to receive energy, one would only need to stick a special metal rod into the ground and tune a receiver to the tower's resonant frequency. Energy could be drawn from anywhere on the planet, powering everything from a light bulb to a factory. By the end of 1900, Tesla had convinced banker John Pierpont Morgan to finance the construction of a wireless transmission station. Morgan, being a far-sighted financier, saw enormous commercial potential in this project. He allocated $150,000 to the project, about $4 to $5 million today, in exchange for a controlling stake in the company and half of all future patent royalties. Yes, it is a truly surprising turn. The man who backed Tesla's competitor, Thomas Edison, ended up financing the inventor's most ambitious project. However, this was not a random whim. A world-class banker like Morgan never acted under the influence of emotion. His interest in Tesla was purely pragmatic and based on cold business calculation. He financed not so much people as promising technologies. He had long ago invested in electricity, funding Edison's experiments, and installing the first DC system in his own mansion. To attract investment, Tesla launched a brilliant public campaign. He published a futuristic article in a magazine about a global wireless system capable of transmitting messages, music, and even images across the ocean. This article attracted the attention of the powerful banker. In private conversations, Tesla, a master presenter, vividly described to Morgan how his system would turn the Earth into a giant brain. The idea of a global telegraph was close and understandable to Morgan. That was the basis of their deal. Initially, everything went according to plan, but the scientific genius could not resist the temptation to reveal his true grand design. At some point, Tesla considered it his duty to explain to the investor the true purpose of the project. He announced to Morgan that he intended to use the tower primarily for the free transmission of electricity, with communication being merely an additional function. Tesla wanted to transmit energy without wires, for free, for the entire planet. This decision proved fatal for Wardenclyffe Tower. Morgan, whose empires were built on selling electricity, asked the question, if energy is free, who will buy my meters? Funding cut off. For a financier who had enormous stakes in the copper industry and the world's first Niagara Falls hydroelectric plant, the idea of free energy was not just unprofitable, it was catastrophic for his empire. The tower stands. No money. Tesla writes letters. He begs. He explains. He proves. 38 letters to Morgan. Morgan answered not one. The situation for Tesla became critical. In December 1901, Guglielmo Marconi successfully transmitted the first radio signal across the Atlantic using 17 of Tesla's patents. This stripped the tower project of its last commercial appeal in the eyes of investors. Economic crisis. The financial panic of the time made finding new investors practically impossible. Debts. Material prices for the tower had doubled, and Tesla, trying to complete construction at his own expense, sank into debt. 1905. Tesla is alone in the lab. The money is gone. The tower is unfinished. Creditors are knocking at the door. His nervous breakdown is documented. Collapse. By 1906, the project was completely abandoned. What would you have done in his place? In Tesla's place? The place of a genius inventor who wanted to give the whole world free energy? He moves from one New York hotel to another. Each time the debt piles up. In 1915, the newspapers announced the Nobel Prize in Physics would be awarded jointly to Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. Both refused. The official reason has never been established. According to contemporaries, Tesla did not wish to share the prize with the man who had deceived him. Edison, according to the same accounts, did not wish to share it with anyone. Both ended up with nothing. The prize went to someone else. It is easy to appoint a villain here. Edison, Morgan, Westinghouse, the system. But wait. Edison played by the rules of his time. He was an entrepreneur in an era when entrepreneurship meant survival. He created over 1,000 patents. He built an industry. He was not obligated to be an altruist. Morgan financed art, science, charity. He was an investor, not a patron. He wanted a return on his investment. That was his job. The system did not break Tesla. He gave it the keys himself. That does not make the system right, but it changes the question. In 1912, Tesla's property, including his laboratory, was seized for debt. In 1917, the tower, which had never operated at full capacity, was dynamited and sold for scrap to cover part of his debts. Tesla learned of this from the newspapers. He was not present. No one called. Wardenclyffe Tower became a monument to human genius, dashed against the rocks of the market economy. Tesla offered a world where electricity would be as accessible and free as air. But this world was not desired by those who owned the wires and the meters. For the next 26 years, he lived in debt, in hotels. The final years, in a single room. The Hotel New Yorker tolerated his debt, out of respect, or pity, or both. January 7th, 1943. The maid opens the door to the room. Silence. 24 hours later, agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation and representatives of the Office of Alien Property Custodian arrive. They take everything: papers, calculations, equipment, the folder of calculations from that desk. The documents are classified, now, not fully declassified, still to this day. Tesla's passing was perceived by the government of the United States of America not as a mourning event, but as a matter of national security. The reason, his claims of creating a device capable, in his words, of destroying anything at a distance of hundreds of kilometers. The entire seized archive received a top-secret classification and was taken to a warehouse for further analysis. After analysis, the bulk of the materials were stored in special vaults for decades. Only in 1952 were the remnants of the archive, and not all of it, handed over to Tesla's nephew. Today, they form the basis of the collection at the Nikola Tesla Museum in Belgrade. Many original calculations, drawings, and notebooks are still considered lost. While agents were sorting through Tesla's papers, the Supreme Court of the United States was preparing a ruling on a case that had lasted over 2 decades. It was a lawsuit by the Marconi Company, which had successfully transmitted the first radio signal across the Atlantic against the U.S. government for the use of its patents. In June 1943, 5 months after Tesla passed away, the Supreme Court of the United States issued a historic ruling in the case. The priority of the radio patent belongs to Tesla. The court declared Marconi's basic patent invalid, as it was based on the earlier work of Nikola Tesla, Oliver Lodge, and other scientists. In effect, the court affirmed Tesla's priority in the key principles of radio communication. The ruling emphasized that Marconi had done nothing that had not already been disclosed by Tesla. Not Marconi. Marconi used 17 of Tesla's patents. The most astonishing thing is that Tesla himself seemed little concerned with this patent war. Long before the trial in 1901, when Marconi made his famous transatlantic transmission, Tesla said, "Marconi is a good fellow. Let him continue. He is using 17 of my patents." This quote perfectly illustrates his nature. He was interested in scientific discovery and the advancement of technology for humanity, not in money or fame. He genuinely rejoiced in the successes of others on the path he himself had paved. Soror. In 1960, the International System of Units introduced the name Tesla for the unit of magnetic flux density. His name entered physics forever. Why did all this happen? It was no accident. It was not malice. Tesla did not understand money as a tool of protection, only as fuel for the next idea. The paradox of the situation is that 2 completely different worlds collided here: the world of business and the world of science. Thus, his life demonstrates as clearly as possible the tragedy of a man who outpaced not only technology, but the very thinking of his era. Alternating current in every socket on the planet, the principles of wireless energy transmission, the basis of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and radar. He was afraid of pearls, did not ride in cars, and considered personal jewelry a sign of weak character. The rights to the name Tesla were purchased in 2004 for $11 million, not from Tesla's heirs, from a private owner of the trademark. What is more important, to change the world or to get paid for it? Tesla chose the first, the system chose the second, naivety or principle or illness. What was it? It depends on who is writing the textbook. It depends on whose perspective is needed. January 7th, 1943. New York, millions of windows, yellow light. You look at the city now. Every light bulb works on his principle. Every wire, every socket,